Welcome back. Well, our weather staying fantastic. Meanwhile, it's another story over in Florida with Milton making landfall this evening and a rough night for Florida, the peninsula going through the overnight hours into early tomorrow. So let's take a look at the water vapor imagery and the big picture here. You can see we still are high and dry, severe clear, a northwest wind flow aloft across Louisiana. Meanwhile, it's a different story as we get out into the Gulf of Mexico with that hurricane making landfall. And here we are dialed into the regional Doppler radars out of Florida, and you can see this is kind of a lopsided storm. The northern portion of the eye wall, the worst right now, and that's what the models have been predicting, especially the graph model, and those very heavy rain bands working their way into Florida even as we speak. And just to do some storm tracking, just for kicks and giggles here, you can see a very active system with rotating cells here. A lot of early signals for tornado vortex signatures, but these are all offshore. Now, earlier today, there were some big tornadoes in the east coast of Florida, and there have been some tornadoes involved a little bit closer to the eye wall as well, and that eye wall, or at least part of it, is moving in. The very heavy rain now over Tampa Bay, down through Bradenton and Sarasota, and anybody that's going to be involved with this part of the squall, the inner eye wall, is going to have a very rough night ahead. And we can see, again, some of those very intense rain squalls just offshore. Check some of the velocities out here. They're showing up at about 120 or so. So that's where you're going to get your gusts as this moves inland. And it is still a potent Category 3 storm. And we see that on the infrared satellite imagery. Just a shell of what it looked like yesterday where we had that closed circular eye. You can see how the drier air's gotten into the system and made it a little bit more lopsided. And also has accelerated the storm. It's moving now to the northeast at 15, 120-mile-per-hour winds sustained. That's going to be mainly over water. You're going to see lower sustained winds inland, but maybe some gusts over the 100-mile-per-hour range, and pressure continues to fill and rise at 952 millibars. Forecast track pretty much online with the graph model that we were showing you a little bit earlier. Again, Bradenton, Sarasota, Tampa may be getting out of the super high winds, but boy, they're going to get hammered with very heavy rainfall and what we call compound flooding, where you have rain, wind, and surge all going at the same time. But the water is going to be flowing out of the bay towards, say, the St. Pete area, and then this storm crossing the Florida peninsula, and hurricane winds, sustained hurricane winds reaching at least the center part of Florida, maybe Orlando. You can see those hurricane force winds picking back up as the storm gets back into the Atlantic Ocean. Storm surge, this is going to be the big story. Maybe not so much for portions of Tampa Bay, again showing less of the wave surge because of mainly northeasterly winds, but you're still going to have bay flooding going toward the St. Petersburg area, so we'll see how this fleshes out. And then the bigger surge is going to be down toward, we'll say, the Port Charlotte area, Fort Myers area with inundation there. The latest forecast coming from the National Hurricane Center up to 9 to 13 feet along and south of where the eye makes landfall. So this one is going to be a rough one given the storm surge and the rainfall and the wind. Comes all hazards. Here's the latest graph model, and here we're tracking the latest Hurricane Center forecast track pretty much online. And notice the heaviest rains on the northern portion of the storm. So Orlando is going to get a hurricane more than likely, with the possibility of hurricane conditions, and maybe off through Daytona Beach as well as that moves offshore. Latest, this is a HRRR model. This is an hourly run, so we're seeing the latest wind gust estimates, 70, 80 miles per hour, working their way off to the east. Orlando could see over 80-mile-per-hour winds for sure, and then the system works its way offshore as we get toward tomorrow morning. And, of course, rainfall is going to be heavy, and there's going to be flooding in a stripe across the Florida peninsula as well. Meanwhile, we're almost feeling guilty about the temperatures. Mid-50s again for tomorrow morning for northern parishes of Acadiana, mid to upper 50s to near 60 in Lafayette. And by the way, mid-50s this morning in Lafayette, coolest reading since April 23rd. We'll take it and run. Then a nice warm-up, though, tomorrow afternoon. After that chill down, we'll see temperatures rising into the upper 80s, and we may be pushing 90 before all is said and done. So nice and cool tonight. Clear skies, quarter moon out there in the evening, 60 your low. Tomorrow, wall-to-wall sun once again, 89 the projected high, with lots of sunshine and nothing but sunshine ahead for Acadiana. Warm afternoons, pleasant nights, and then another front gets here Monday, and then it feels like real fall as we get into the middle part of next week. That's it for weather for now. We'll have more coming up in just a little bit.